Elio says that Canada says it will match U.S. tariffs, reigniting a trade war with Washington after last-minute talks between the North American neighbors collapsed. And to discuss more on this, we are joined by our policy expert and lawyer, Timi Olagunju. Timi Olagunju, sorry. He is a partner and the Timeless Pratters. A very good morning to you, and glad to have you join us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Now I'll go straight. Now, how significant is this breakdown in U.S.-Canada trade talks, and what does it mean for the wider North American economy?
Well, it is very significant in terms of the numbers, particularly when you look at the fact that it's going to affect about 5% of Canada's export to the U.S. So the significance for Canada, that can be attributed in financial terms to about roughly $20 billion of Canadian goods. And that is significantly something for both employment and also for the industry in Canada, but as well as for the United States as well, because when you look at it carefully, the tariffs will be on goods that will be consumed by the American market, the United States market, and that can significantly increase the prices of affected goods and services in that regard.
All right, now we hear that Carney has actually threatened that dollar-for-dollar reciprocal tariffs. Now, could that now trigger a broader trade war between the two countries?
Absolutely. It can do that. It can engender trade wars between both countries. But more importantly is that with the current trade or the current dollar-to-dollar threat tariff that the Prime Minister of Canada has declared, which primarily is to take on by September 6th, the effect of that is that significant Canadian energy, metal, lumber, and other components that are being exported from the U.S. as well as from Canada to the U.S. Will be significantly hit by that. And that can affect the U.S. not just economically, but also politically, because when you look at it carefully, the political impact assessment as well as the economic assessment will affect both sides. But for most Canadians, from the research that was carried out, about 30% of Canadians are somewhat ready for whatever trade disputes or, wars that might happen in that, or exchanges that might happen in that regard. And also 30% actually want the negotiations to continue. So, but for the US already, the US political environment is already strained for the current president, President Donald Trump. And also because there's significant inflation biting the US market. And so on both sides, it's going to really weigh significantly, but more politically exposed for the U.S. than for Canada, and more economically exposed for Canada than the U.S.
Well, that's actually correct there, because definitely there's going to be banter between the two. But now let's talk about the tariffs. Now, do you think these tariffs could ultimately hurt American consumers and actually businesses as much as Canadian exporters?
Absolutely. It would hurt both the Canadian exporters from the levels of firms.
Okay.
In the context of the fact that, as we know, 71% or so of Canadian export comes into the U.S. And so the U.S. is a significant export market for Canada. And so a lot of manufacturing that will be affected by the 50% tariff would definitely feel the brunt, and significantly thousands of jobs might be lost if it lingers. However, also on the U.S. side, because of the fact that it is tariff on goods that are produced, right? So the consumers on the market side of the U.S. will significantly feel it than firms. However, if Canada initiates its reciprocal tariffs, on the US on the 6th of September, as it has declared, the implication of that is that it will significantly affect a lot of firms as well, particularly in certain regions of the US that rely on a lot of steel that come from the Canadian market, as well as other inputs for manufacturing that come from the Canadian market. So it's a lose-lose on both ends, actually, in that context.
Well, let's just say it goes. But on a final note now, what do you think are the chances, of Washington and Ottawa returning maybe to the negotiating table, and what would it take to actually revive the talks?
I think that with the reciprocal tariffs that is being declared by Canada,
yes,
it will significantly affect, the auto metals market. And so the political economics of it might pressure the US to continue conversations with Canada in that context. That is what I think would happen. However, we will see how things play out.
All right, now let's hope that negotiations still continue on the table. And thank you for joining us for this brief moment. Definitely, when we're calling you, we'll be able to have you join us for more conversations, looking at what will happen next.